Hey, what's up guys? John here. We've been talking about a crash for a very long time. And now what Janet Yellen just said, she just dropped this 15 minutes ago on us. She says that she's warning of a possible October default on the US debt swollen by the pandemic. The United States could default on its debt sometime in October if Congress does not take action to raise or suspend the debt limit. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warned on Wednesday the extraordinary measures that the Treasury Department has been employing to finance the government on a temporary basis since August 1st will be exhausted next month. Ms. Yellen said in a letter to lawmakers, she added that the exact timing remained unclear, but that the time to avert an economic catastrophe was running out. Once all available measures and cash on hand are fully exhausted, the United States of America would be unable to meet its obligations for the first time in U.S. history. Here are the consequences of this situation unfolding. So the U.S. deficit often feels like an arbitrary thing considering it's always rising. However, it's anything but arbitrary. If the government were to default, tough consequences would ripple out on a global scale. Interest rates would soar. Currently, the federal interest rate is extremely low while the economy recovers from the pandemic. However, a U.S. debt default could shift this far into the other direction. It would cost businesses, governments, and loan recipients of all kinds a lot more to borrow money. The value of the U.S. dollar would take a beating. Not only that, but the U.S. dollar would lose its place in the list of global world currencies. Meanwhile, investors would hop on other world currencies like the euro or the yen. U.S. import prices would rise through the roof, which would make it extremely expensive to live in the country. Inflation would hit hard and fast. Any government employee would be out of luck for their paycheck. Also, any citizen receiving or set to receive Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid benefits would lose those programs entirely. Payments on student loans, tax returns, and government facilities would shut down. Unlike a government shutdown that impacts only non-essential programs, the impacts of the U.S. debt default would be far-reaching. U.S. credit card downgrades can tank stock markets too. American wealth and stability in many forms would be in turmoil. To delay a default, Treasury has in the last month suspended investments in the civil service, retirement and the disability fund, the Postal Service Retirement Health Benefits Fund, and the Government Securities Investment Fund and the Federal Employees Retirement System Thrift Savings Plan. The distribution of the pandemic relief payments this year and uncertainty over incoming tax payments this month have made it more challenging than usual to predict when funds will run out, Ms. Yellen said. In a default would cause irreparable harm to the U.S. economy and to global financial markets, and that even coming close to defaulting would be harmful. We have learned from past debt limit impasses that waiting until the last minute to suspend or increase the debt limit can cause serious harm to business and consumer confidence, raise short-term borrowing costs for taxpayers, negatively impact the credit rating of the United States, she wrote. Democratic leaders have been insisting for months that the Republicans join them in raising the debt ceiling, saying the government hit its last debt limit because of the spending and tax cutting of the Trump administration, what Nancy Pelosi of California on Wednesday called the Trump credit card. But Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, the Republican leader, has been just as empathetic that he will keep Senate Republicans from helping Democrats on the issue. Democrats may try to attach the increase to measures such as emergency spending bill to pay for relief and reconstruction of Hurricane Ida, wildfires, heat waves from the summer, daring senators from Louisiana and western states to vote no. The showdown has again put the parties into a game of chicken with debt default and potential economic crisis as the consequence. Ms. Pelosi, at her weekly news conference on Wednesday, said empathetically that Democrats would not include a statutory increase in the government's borrowing authority in a budget bill being drafted this month. That bill, under complicated budget rules, could pass without Republican votes in the Senate. Instead, Democratic leaders will dare Senate Republicans to filibuster a bill that does raising the debt ceiling. We Democrats support lifting the debt ceiling during the Trump administration, she said, because it was the responsible thing to do, she added. I would hope that the Republicans would act in a similarly responsible way. Democrats have several options they are considering. The government will run out of operating funds at the end of the month, so a debt ceiling increase could attach to a stopgap spending measure, meaning Republican filibuster will not only jeopardize the government's full faith and credit, it could shut down the government. Democrats could also attach it to a major infrastructure bill that passed the Senate with bipartisan support and is supposed to get House vote by September 27th. This is unreal. Stan Druckenmiller, who alongside of George Soros, who broke the bank essentially of England, he came out and said that the dollar is going to lose reserve currency status. I personally believe with the instability that's happening right now in America, nations across the world are taking a hard look and questioning the stability that's happening here and how everything's being run. I think the stock market, I think the real estate market, I think consumer confidence is in a place that doesn't balance well with the actual true state of the economy and the true state of what's happening behind the scenes. What I think is very likely to happen is I do believe, alongside of Peter Thiel, who is now, he owns a company, Palantir, is now accepting gold, he's now accepting Bitcoin as a secondary and third option outside of the dollar to be paid. This is a software company. This software company that operates with governments throughout the entire world, and he's getting paid in gold and Bitcoin. What I think is very likely to happen is I think that we're going to start to see less and less faith in America. And I think we're in for some really, really bumpy times. What do you think about what Janet Yellen just said? Do you think that we're going to see a crash, a massive crash? What do you think about what they said yesterday about the infrastructure bill, about how they wanted to fund this $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill by taxing unrealized capital gains? Imagine you buy a stock picks up a lot in value, you have not yet realized any gain, and you're taxed on it for simply having invested. So now if you don't have the money, you have to sell that stock to pay off the government. Imagine that. And every single year you pay a tax for holding an investment. What is this going to do to the US economy? It's going to push people away from investing. It's going to push people away from building on capitalism, creating jobs, everything. We're in deep over our head right now. A lot of people don't see it. What do you see? Drop your comments below, smash that like button, subscribe here, consider subbing on my second channel, my personal channel. I'll leave the links pinned down below. See you guys in the next video.